Hey everyone, welcome back. Let's talk marketing research. Specifically, how does academic research translate into, real wins for marketers? I have a stack of articles here about this very thing, and it's a hot topic.
It is, and often a confusing one, right? So much jargon. Hopefully we can bring some clarity to the discussion today.
I hope so too. Our main guide for today is this article, Factors Affecting the Study of Important Marketing Issues by Ajay Kohli and Michael Hainline. And to give us even more to dig into, we've got two commentaries on this article.
Oh, fun. It'll be like a roundtable
Yes,
discussion.
exactly. Okay, so before we dive into the nitty-gritty, can you tell us, just at a high level, what these articles say about issue importance? Because it sounds kind of self-explanatory, but it's actually a lot more nuanced, right?
Right. It's not just, is it relevant to marketing? It's how big of a deal are the findings, right? Like who's affected and how much could those people actually change what they're doing based on what the research says?
It's like reading a product review versus like a company's annual report. Both are related to a company, but the impact is completely different.
Yes. And Coley and Heinlein say that relevance is often mistaken for importance. But those are two very different things.
Okay, now you got me curious. Give me an example. When is relevance, like, overrated?
They have a really great example in the article. So imagine comparing something like the design of a marketing brochure with like research into how online channels are impacting a company's
So
sales.
both are related to marketing, obviously.
But
But
which one do you think has the potential to really change things up?
yeah, I mean, a fancy brochure is nice and all, but figuring out your online sales could change how your whole company runs.
Right, exactly. That's where the issue importance really comes in. That's the difference between like a small tweak and a total overhaul.
So it's not just, is it related to marketing,
Yeah.
but how much could this change how we approach marketing?
Exactly. And to make this whole issue importance thing even clearer, Coley and Heinlein break it down into three main parts.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So the first is how many different people or groups of people are affected. Because the more people a research finding impacts, the bigger the deal it is.
It makes sense. Like a tiny change that affects a ton of people matters more than a huge change that only affects like two people. What's the
Got
next
it.
one?
Okay, so the second thing is the status of the stakeholders. Like, if a CMO changes their whole budget based on some research, that's obviously more impactful than if, like, a junior marketer changes a couple words in an ad.
Totally. Because status usually means they have more influence, so it's a much bigger deal.
Hmm.
Okay, last one.
Last one. And this one is all about how much people might actually change their behavior. Like, are we talking about small adjustments or are we talking about a complete 180? Both matter, but the scale is totally different.
Like adding a pinch of salt to a recipe versus inventing a whole new cuisine. Okay, so that's issue importance in a nutshell. But this isn't just about getting research out of the ivory tower and into the real world, right? Stefan Streamersh, in his commentary, talks about how this idea of issue importance even plays out within academia itself.
Absolutely. He breaks it down into four categories of research impact.
Oh, interesting. What are those?
So first, and I think we can all agree this is the most influential type, is what he calls thought leadership. This is that groundbreaking stuff that really changes how the leaders in a field think and operate, the research that creates real change.
Yeah, that's like the dream, right? But what about all the research that doesn't quite hit thought leadership status? Where does that fit in?
So that's where these other categories come in. The second one is what Streamersh calls applied science, which is more about like solving specific practical problems. It's less about building a whole new machine and more like fine-tuning one that already exists.
Okay, so it's still super valuable, but maybe not making the same kind of splash as that thought leadership research. And both are important for moving a field forward.
Mm.
What about the last two categories? What are the final pieces of the research impact puzzle, according to Streamersh?
Right. So the third one is science leadership, and this is all about changing how researchers think. So it's research that challenges the assumptions in a field, opens up new ways of thinking about things. It might not have like immediate real world applications, but it can really shape the future of a field.
So science leadership is kind of like planting seeds for future breakthroughs. I like that a lot. Okay, that brings us to the final category. And I'm a little afraid to ask, haha, but what's Streamersh's last take on research impact?
Well, he calls it puzzling science, and full disclosure, I think he's having a little fun with this one. Yeah. Basically, it's research that, like, it might be technically sound, rigorous, all that good stuff, but it leaves you wondering, what's the point?
Like that research paper that's written in a language only 5 people on Earth understand. And even they aren't sure what it means. Haha. I've definitely come across a few of those. Have you ever found yourself working on puzzling science?
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say there have been times when the practical applications of my work were a bit elusive.
Haha, fair enough. But hey, sometimes those detours can, teach you something valuable in the long run.
Oh,
Right?
for sure. It's all part of the process.
Totally. It's like not every research project is going to be a home run. Sometimes those like seemingly random findings end up being the building blocks for something truly amazing down the line. But it's important to be able to like recognize the difference
Hmm.
and to try to prioritize work that has that potential for, real impact.
Definitely. And speaking of impact, we should probably get back to Coley and Heinlein's article because one thing they talk about is how important it is for researchers to actually like engage directly with the people who will be using their findings.
Yeah. Let's loop back to that. What do they say about that engagement piece? Why is it so important for researchers to really be in touch with the folks on the ground, so to speak?
Basically, they're saying that if you really want to solve real world problems, you need to really get those problems, like really understand the nuances. And the best way to do that is to interact with the people who are dealing with those problems every day. So we're talking marketers, consumers, even policymakers, everyone involved.
Less ivory tower and more like getting your hands dirty. I
Exactly.
like that. But some of our listeners might be thinking, okay, that's all well and good for these researchers, but I'm not a researcher, so how does this apply to me? What would you say to them?
That's such a great question. And it really gets to the heart of why this whole issue importance thing matters. Because you, as a consumer of marketing, whether you're on the business side of things or just out there living your life, you're a vital part of this whole ecosystem. So being able to look at a piece of research and say, okay, does this actually address an issue that matters to me? That's huge.
It's about being an informed consumer of information.
Love it.
Yeah. So it's like, does this resonate with my experiences? Does this address the challenges that I'm facing in my work, in my life? And if the answer is no, that might be a sign that, maybe this research isn't quite hitting that issue importance mark.
Exactly. And, Coley and Henline, they do acknowledge that tackling these really important marketing issues, it's not always straightforward. Like, they even express some concern about what they see as a decline in something they call conceptual thinking in marketing research.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I'm sensing a but here. What do they see as the issue with how people are approaching these, big, messy problems?
Well, they say there's a difference between just like taking theories from other fields like psychology or economics and applying them to marketing and actually building new theories that are, specifically designed to deal with the complexities of the marketing world.
So it's like you can use a pre-made blueprint to build a house, or you can design a custom one that fits your exact needs and the landscape. And sometimes in marketing research, we need to create our own blueprints.
Yes, exactly. And that's where critical thinking comes in for both the people doing the research and the people reading it. Like Coley and Heinlein are really encouraging us to ask, is this just borrowing ideas? Or is it offering genuinely new insights into the world of marketing?
So pushing the boundaries versus rearranging the furniture.
Yes, 100%.
Always looking for those fresh perspectives. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, but there's one more voice we need to bring into this. Because Baron Warenga, in his commentary, he offers a really interesting take on the role of specialization within marketing research.
Yeah, specialization. It's tricky, right? Because on the one hand, you need people who are really, really good at one specific thing, but then there's the risk of like losing sight of the bigger picture. So how does
Yeah.
Warenga say we should be thinking about that balance? Well, he definitely agrees that having these different areas of expertise like pricing or branding or consumer behavior, it's super important. Each of those subdomains, they need their own like deep level of knowledge. It's like, think of an orchestra. You need violinists, trumpet players, drummers. Everyone has their specialty.
Right, like you need all those specialists, all those individual instruments
Yeah.
to make a symphony, right?
Exactly. And that's kind of his point. He's saying we have to be careful that these subdomains don't get so specialized that they forget about how it all fits together, like how all the different parts of marketing work together.
So it's like you've got all these amazing musicians, each playing their part perfectly, but no one's looking at the conductor and there's no harmony.
Exactly. It's like a symphony of chaos. And honestly, I think this is something that applies to a lot of fields, not just marketing. Like, think about your own work. Does specialization make things better or worse?
It's a great question. Does it help us understand things better, or does it just make everything more like fragmented?
Yeah.
Definitely something to think about.
It makes me wonder, What if we could get all these marketing masterminds in a room together, all the specialists, all the different viewpoints, and ask them like one big question about the future of marketing? What would you ask?
Oh, man. That is a good question. It's like that marketing center court idea that Varenga talks about. You know, that place where all the brightest minds in marketing can come together to really tackle the big issues? Yes,
Mm.
exactly. Okay, so you've got the microphone at this marketing center court. What's the one question that you would ask to spark the most insightful, most impactful conversation about where marketing is headed?
Hmm. How about this? What if we ask, what's a widely held belief about marketing today that you think will be proven completely false in the next decade?
Ooh, that is a good one. It's like asking what's the marketing equivalent of the Earth being flat?
Right,
Like, what are we taking for granted now that will seem completely ridiculous in 10 years?
right, because things change so fast. And to really stay ahead of the curve, we have to be willing to question everything.
Couldn't agree more. So, listener, we hope this deep dive is giving you some new ways to think about, how important research really is, and maybe even spark some questions of your own. What marketing assumptions do you think will be turned upside down in the next few years? Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the research that matters to you.